Tonight on City News Connect.
What makes Jasper Jasper is still here.
Through fire to snow, Jasper is inviting tourists back.
A very definite line of before the fire and now after the fire.
We visit the mountain community and speak with 4 business owners about their hopes for the rebuild.
More resilient and potentially help solve some of the structural housing challenges we had pre-fire.
While dealing with a housing crisis. Welcome to City News Connect. I'm Carly Robinson. Rebuilding Jasper after the July wildfire will take time and comes with unique challenges, needing all 3 levels of government to work together. But here in Jasper, even though 1/3 of the town is burned, that spirit of the community remains intact. Any year, the end of October would be slow season for Jasper tourism. But each guest that stops in the mountain town is part of the locals' healing journey.
So just appreciate that everyone has their own attachment to Jasper, and we're a little beat up right now, but we're gonna get there. We need some cheerleaders.
The community is hoping tourists come back for the survival of their businesses.
Really neat to see people exploring Jasper after the fire and finding that it is still so beautiful, that there is so many places that are either untouched or are devastated, but the forest aspect of that can be really interesting and be an incredible learning lesson.
But many Jasper residents are still coming to terms with this summer's devastating wildfire.
One of Canada's most iconic natural and cultural landscapes is on fire.
The night of July 22nd, residents and thousands of tourists were told they need to evacuate the national park, with 2 lightning-caused fires burning near the town.
A guest at the first seating got a storm warning on a phone, and I'm thinking this is not good. And then ash started to fall.
Those few days between evacuation and when the fire hit were probably some of the longest days of our life.
2 days later, July 24th at 6:40 p.m., the fire hit the town of Jasper.
Fire crews were witnessing 300 to 400 foot flames, fully involved, continuous crown fire, and a fire spread rate of approximately 15 meters per minute.
The fire so large, propelled by strong winds, the park going through a drought and a recent heat wave, giving the fire a dry and old-growth forest to push through. Parks Canada had to pull most wildland firefighters that night, with structural firefighters equipped with stronger respirators rushing from across Alberta to save what they could, as Jasperites watched from afar.
It was one devastating phone call from a friend who showed us the picture of Moline Lodge on fire. And that's really just 3 blocks from here. And I felt like at that time we just knew it was kind of over. We knew that we would most likely lose our house.
Like many in Jasper, Laura Coulson confirmed her home was gone through cell phone videos. 3 months later, work slowly beginning to clean up debris from the west end of Jasper.
When you walk through this neighborhood, it is just a sea of disaster. And living here for 9 years, it's unrecognizable to me. And sometimes you can't even remember which house stood down the block.
Laura only came back to Jasper at the start of October, initially nervous about what she would see, but finding comfort in this memorial left by her friends.
When people walk by this house, you know, they can see the house that used to be here. And I think it just reminds people that this was somebody's home and a whole life was lived here.
Now we're standing here. This was your home. Can you tell me a little bit about the home you built in Jasper?
Our home, it was just almost a personality. I call her a she, and she was 100 years old this year. She was built in 1924, and it's the first place that we've ever owned, and it really signified putting down roots in Jasper. And buying a home in Jasper, it's not an easy feat. Real estate is scarce and it's expensive, So for the opportunity to have a home here was so special, and it offered a lot of security.
Like so many in Jasper, Laura isn't just looking to rebuild her home, but navigating a busy summer season of lost income. Laura is a marriage commissioner. She had to cancel a summer's worth of wedding bookings. She's now taking recovery one day at a time, but is optimistic about welcoming newlyweds in summer 2025.
It might be a little bit different. It might not be as busy as it has been in the past, but the one special thing about Jasper is it's just iconic and people absolutely love it, and it's still going to be a really beautiful place to get married. So I have a lot of hope.
But for some, that belief in the community...
As soon as I was here, I knew I wanted this to be my home.
...is not enough alone to weather the storm.
For other residents, their story goes on in Jasper, like, you know, the Jasperites, they're moving forward and they can move forward here. For me, that's not my story.
Rachel Bailey was the proud co-owner of a new restaurant, open just 40 days when Jasper evacuated.
The night of the fire, or the morning of the fire, an ember landed on it, and it's done.
And for a new business, reopening is a lot harder with everything you put into it.
Yeah, we put a lot into it and it's all gone. Like, you know, nothing's salvageable in there, and the building will be stripped to its studs. And then, you know, it's just thinking about space where there could be a reopening and if we can do it, and that's all just up in the air, but it's not looking good.
Rachel met with City News during her final days in Jasper. She doesn't see a space for her in the rebuild. Having lost a new business she just poured everything into.
So this one's mine.
The white picket fence?
White picket fence. How did the house burn down? The white picket fence made it.
As well as the home she was staying in. So you're leaving, but you're not writing Jasper off for you.
I don't want to write it off, because I've loved it for 11 years. You know, like I said, I fought very hard for residency and citizenship. And if I had the house left or the restaurant left, it would be easier to go down an avenue. Okay, I need to find a room. Okay, I need to, you know, find something that I feel is healthy for me, and I lost it all.
A total of 358 buildings were destroyed during the July fire, representing over 800 housing units. But the majority of the town still stands. Jasper and Parks Canada are hoping Albertans will still visit the mountain community, with the ski hill Marmot Basin opening any day now. Those visiting Jasper this fall or winter will find businesses open. Others, though, are still working on it as they deal with different timelines for insurance, cleaning, and contamination.
Usually we have about 12 guests sitting at the bar right now. We would be in happy hour right now.
Ashley and her husband co-own the Peacock with Rachel and a second restaurant, The Raven.
So fortunately, the fire didn't make it this far through downtown, but just because the actual fire didn't hit a building, a lot of buildings have been hit from the effects of the fire.
From smoke and ash entering the building to spoiled food in the restaurant that lost power during the fire, the building is considered contaminated, needing to deal with her insurance and the building's owner's insurance.
So what that means is there's two different restoration companies that are working together with us. So they've taken everything out of the building, all of the food product has been disposed of. They're going to come in and remove all of the ceiling tiles and dispose of them.
Jasper is remote, and with so many businesses dealing with various levels of contamination, it means waiting and uncertain timelines.
It's really tricky because, as you can see, everything has been taken out. Everything's been taken out of the kitchen as well. So we'll have to piece everything back together. We'll also be reopening in a winter menu, whereas in the summertime, we closed in the heat of summer and highest levels of businesses.
A seemingly small thing, like whether a window was left open or closed during the evacuation, having an impact on reopening.
Burn.
Sylvie Walsh owns 2 clothing stores in Jasper. Ransom opening mid-September.
We have really great windows and doors that were very well sealed, and so there was a bit of smoke, but no soot or ash damage in the space, so we got very lucky. And our ventilation was all turned off. That seemed to have helped. I mean, it really is just luck of the draw. I don't think we did anything right or wrong. It just happened to be we got lucky.
Yeah. A few doors down, your other business not quite ready to open. What was the story there?
So my other location, Bombshell Boutique, unfortunately had a fire on the roof, which meant a lot of soot got sucked into the space, and so we lost a lot of the product, which means that it's going to take us longer to reopen, but we are excited to take the time to refresh the space and reopen in the spring.
But Sylvie says tourism for her business is make or break.
That's what makes Jasper such a fun place, is that we have people from all over the world who come and enhance our demographic, both for short visits and people who end up staying. It's, you know, visitors are the lifeblood of the community in many ways, and so yeah, we hope to see people starting to return soon.
Next on City News Connect.
To actually be able to see physically that the work is taking place is very reassuring.
Work has begun on bringing temporary housing to Jasper, but will it be enough? Construction crews are a welcome sign in Jasper as work begins to prepare this land for temporary modular homes. But the clock is ticking, needing to find a place to house residents while they rebuild their homes, while also getting ready for next summer's busy tourism season.
Just a chance to sort of sit with it and say goodbye to it, because soon this will be gone.
The next steps in rebuilding homes like Laura Coulson's is getting rid of debris. The town of Jasper expects the process to continue into spring 2025.
And again, we don't really know what that looks like. We can sort of have our dreams and thoughts about what that house can look like, but ultimately it's a really slow process. We're practicing a lot of patience throughout everything, going through insurance.
But as of the end of October, homeowners are being encouraged to start designing their next home, but don't have specifics on shovels in the ground.
But ultimately, everyone's kind of on their own path, and you know, it depends on what builder our neighbors choose, and not just neighbors beside us, our neighbors behind us. You know, like we were unfortunate to be in one of the blocks that's completely destroyed. So when you think about the logistics of rebuilding a home, it's going to get really crowded here with all the different crews.
But Jasper residents like Laura need a place to stay while rebuilding their homes. Her current accommodations run out in a few months. The town of Jasper has funding from the province to bring in 250 modular homes.
So as you can see, there's a significant amount of work. The ground conditions here are challenging.
Needing to prep the land for gas, water, and power.
We're targeting getting the first 80 to 100 in the ground and available for people starting early in the new year. January, February is the timeline that we're looking at. The initial servicing work will be completed, targeted for the end of November, early December. And that will allow for some time for the mobilization of the units, assembly on site, you know, inspections, permitting, those types of things.
How big of an impact will it be to have the space available for people in the interim?
It's critical. People have lost their homes. They're trying to rebuild and resume their lives. It's challenging. Many people have found alternate forms of accommodation currently that are suboptimal. There's, you know, a bit of overcrowding or moving into, you know, with family and friends. So for people to have a sense of normalcy and accommodation that they can call their own and rely on and be consistent, we have a number of people who have secured accommodation just through the winter, which is traditionally the low season here in Jasper, but then come the springtime, they'll lose that accommodation.
Right now, Jasper residents are finding some space in staff accommodations, rooms that would otherwise be unused in the winter, but are needed in the summer, when the town of approximately 5,000 sees its population double with seasonal workers.
I think the scariest thing for me is going to be accommodation for staff. So there's already been such an accommodation crunch in this town. We fortunately have some staff accommodation for our staff, but I think it's going to be really challenging for a lot of businesses to secure enough housing in order to have their businesses run.
Unfortunately, 80% of my staff lost their homes, and so I'm very, very closely tuned in to knowing about temporary housing first and foremost.
Jasper is in a unique position given its location in a national park. The land is owned by Parks Canada and leased out, meaning the community has not been able to expand or build new neighborhoods as more people want to move to Jasper. Even before the fire, the town was in a housing crunch.
Pre-fire, there was a 600-unit approximately sort of structural deficit of housing in the community based on what we anticipated was our actual housing need. We lost a little over 800 units of accommodation with the fire.
The province wants some of the temporary homes brought in to be made permanent, but the details are still being worked on, as the land leases with Parks Canada only last 5 years.
So this has been a crisis, and nobody wants to go through this. It also does represent a bit of an opportunity in the longer term. So with the rebuild plan, we can look at things like, density changes and building form, architectural motif changes that can be more resilient.
Jasper is allowing for lots to be split or for duplexes to replace single-family homes in the rebuild, saying any building moving forward will need to be fire smart, with no more wood siding or roofs allowed. For Laura,
I was just so encouraged to see our lilac bushes regrowing. It's just wild to me. They are completely burned down to the ground.
Even with her house gone, she's finding glimpses of the home to come.
Just burned, charred stumps, but the greenery growing out of those stumps it just gives you a lot of hope. And, nature heals itself. Nature reminds us that new growth will come.
Still to come on City News Connect, Jasperites share their hopes for their community's future. The day after the wildfire hit the town of Jasper, videos started showing the destruction.
When the disaster first happened, and you look at the comments on social media, people say, I can't believe Jasper's gone. I can't believe it's gone. Now 3 months later, it's not gone.
I have a friend who was very apprehensive of coming back to town. I said to her, Jamie, the mountains are still there, the lakes are still there, there's so much trees, the east end of town is untouched, there's restaurants ready to open, there's retail ready to open. We've still got our trails where we walk the dogs. Some of the trails are matchsticks and it's weird, but there's so much left.
We look forward to welcoming you back and to be gentle with us, that we're trying our best and really ready to look towards the future.
Well, things have changed. Jasper residents are focusing on what's left. 2/3 of the town still standing, and the need to rebuild and heal. The mayor of Jasper putting out a call to keep the political back and forth out of the headlines.
The public, including, of course, residents of Jasper, are certainly entitled to factual information regarding the coordinated wildfire response, which involved all levels of government as well as multiple agency partners. The present atmosphere of finger-pointing, blaming, and both partial and misinformation is, from my perspective, beyond merely an annoying distraction. It delays healing. It introduces fresh wounds and fosters division precisely at a time when we need recovery and unity.
Saying answers on what could have been done differently with the fire and the forest management will come through an after-incident report.
This is a natural disaster. We're all really hurt and our lives have changed, but as a community, what we do as a community is we come around for each other, we talk to each other, we bond over it, and then to see, when you pop on your TV and you want to think about anything else and you see this political debate, it feels so external to what we've actually just lived.
Kind of polarizing. It's beautiful in the way that some people have really stepped back and looked at how this is a part of nature, this is part of living in a remote community, and been really soft and gentle towards people. And then there's some people that have some anger in them and they've really hardened.
Ashley Cleaver says there is a level of grief burnout, being hit with reminders of the fire daily.
See people and it's no longer a quick hey, how's it going? What'd you have for lunch? Yeah. It's is your house still standing? Do you have a job? Are your kids in school? So it's really heavy. But I like to think that those of us that return and stay and set our roots, that this will be something that kind of bonds us all together.
Those still in town have hopes for the rebuild, that it's quick and addresses the housing shortage in Jasper. But one thing they don't want to change is their community supporting each other.
I keep hearing the word resilient when people talk about Jasper. What does Jasper resiliency mean to you?
It means community. It means us supporting each other and building up this the space that we love in a myriad of tiny ways, right? It's not the big grandiose statements, but more just the supporting our neighbors.
We're not in a race here. This is a really, really, really long process that we're going to be experiencing, and it's going to require an immense amount of patience. And I think it's a really symbolic time transitioning into winter right now. We have, shorter days and everything just kind of slows down, and, take that time to just slow your life down. This is not going away. And I know we all want to be in houses tomorrow, but, just the scale of this, it's just going to take time.
That's it for City News Connect, as Jasper continues through those next steps of rebuilding after this summer's wildfire. Residents here are hoping you still consider coming and seeing the mountains and supporting their local businesses. I'm Carly Robinson. Have a good night.